Hello everyone, welcome to Frightful Whispers. I'm here to guide you into the shadows tonight. I know you're using this video to unwind and drift off to sleep. So, before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Where are you watching from? And what time is it for you? Now, get cozy, relax, and let the whispers of the night take over. It was just another quiet night in my apartment. Nothing out of the ordinary. The kind of night where everything feels like it's in its place, and you can almost convince yourself that everything is normal. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the background, and the dull glow from the streetlights outside barely lit the room. The air conditioning kicked in every now and then, but even that was so faint, it was almost comforting. It was a stillness I had grown used to. I was slouched on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through endless notifications, completely immersed in the world of data and numbers. The silence was familiar to me, a quiet I sought out, where nothing could disturb my thoughts. I wasn't the type of guy who believed in supernatural nonsense. Ghosts, spirits, the paranormal? Ridiculous. I had better things to do than waste my time on that kind of stuff. I was a man of facts, of logic. There was no room in my life for anything that didn't make sense. I hadn't even noticed the TV turning on at first. It wasn't until a faint click broke through the silence that I looked up. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe it was just the flicker of a power surge. A malfunction that happens with old equipment like this. I got up without much thought, intending to hit the power button and shut it off. My hand hovered over the remote when something strange caught my eye. The screen wasn't just static, it wasn't the usual gray fuzz or random interference. The static was shifting, moving, it was almost purposeful. Something was on the screen, but not just random noise. Something felt wrong. Something was watching me. I took a step closer, my heart starting to beat faster, though I couldn't explain why. I thought maybe I was imagining it, overthinking it, but I couldn't pull my eyes away. There, clear as day, was my face, staring back at me from the screen. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light or some glitch in the system. But then I realized it wasn't just a reflection. It was a perfect image of me lying in my bed, eyes closed, completely unaware of what was happening. I hadn't been near the TV for hours. There was no way it could have captured me like that. My stomach twisted. I wasn't used to being afraid of anything. But this didn't sit right. I took a step back, my fingers trembling as I reached for the remote. I hit the button again, nothing. The screen didn't go black, it didn't flicker, it just stayed there, my face, staring back at me, motionless. But then something changed. The image shifted. My face remained, but now there was something behind me. At first, I couldn't tell what it was, just a shadow moving in the corner of the screen. I tried to blink it away, to dismiss it, but the shadow didn't go away. It lingered. It grew. Slowly, it became more distinct. A faceless figure, a silhouette, a presence that I couldn't explain. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I turned around quickly as if I could somehow escape what I was seeing. But the room was empty. Nothing was there. The figure wasn't behind me in the room. It was in the TV. It was in the screen, a darkness that stretched and pulsed, like it was alive, watching me, waiting. My heart was hammering in my chest, but I couldn't look away. My eyes were glued to the screen, despite every instinct telling me to run, to do something. But what could I do? The thing on the TV wasn't just an image, it was a presence. It wasn't just showing up, it was watching me, waiting for me to understand that it was real. I tried to rationalize it. I'm not the type to give in to fear. But there was something in that image, something in the way the figure loomed behind me, that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I tried to turn the TV off again, pressing the button over and over, but it didn't work. The screen stayed alive. My face stayed there. That thing was still behind me. I needed to get out. I needed to figure out what was happening. But no matter where I went, no matter what I did, the feeling that something was watching me never left. It followed me, everywhere. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just a glitch. This wasn't some malfunction. Something was happening. Something I couldn't explain, something I didn't want to understand. But there was no escape. Because the thing behind me wasn't just watching, it was waiting. It was a quiet night, just like any other. The kind of night where everything feels still, almost comforting. The low hum of the refrigerator was the only sound that filled the apartment, and the faint glow of the streetlights outside barely touched the edges of the room. The air conditioning kicked on occasionally, but it was barely a whisper, barely noticeable. I was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through mindless notifications, not paying much attention to anything at all. The silence around me felt safe, familiar, almost like it was wrapping me up, cocooning me in a sense of calm. But then I heard something. It was a soft click. At first, I thought nothing of it. The kind of sound that blends into the background, like the creak of the floorboards or the clink of a dish. But as I looked up, I saw the TV in the corner of the room flicker to life. I didn't even remember leaving it on. My first instinct was to turn it off, but before I could move, I noticed something strange. The screen wasn't just static. No, it was moving. It wasn't the usual fuzz I was used to seeing from an old TV. This was different, almost like the static was shifting on purpose. I stared at it, my heart picking up pace for reasons I couldn't explain. Something felt off. I stood up slowly, cautiously, and moved toward the TV. I figured it was just some weird glitch, maybe a malfunction, something that would go away if I hit the power button. But as I leaned in closer, my breath caught in my throat. I could see it now, my face, but it wasn't just any image of me. This wasn't the reflection of me sitting here, staring at the TV. No, it was me, sleeping. It was a shot of me in my bed, eyes closed, completely unaware. But that wasn't what made my stomach twist. It was the angle, the impossible angle. The TV was showing me from a position that couldn't exist. There was no camera here that could have captured me like this. No mirror, no window, no reflection. I took a step back, feeling the cold sweat on my palms. What the hell was this? I reached for the remote, trying to switch it off, but it didn't work. I pressed the button over and over, but the screen just stayed there, frozen on my face. And then, the image changed. The static on the screen flickered like it was trying to focus, and then I saw it. At first, it was just a shadow. Something in the corner of the room behind me. A dark, shifting shape. I thought I was imagining it, but then it became clearer. It wasn't me. It was something else. Something wrong. The outline of a figure, but no details. No face, no features, just a presence. Something that shouldn't be there. My breath caught in my throat. The figure was standing behind me. Just behind me. It didn't move. It just stood there, as if it had always been there, waiting, watching. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, just a trick of the static, but I could feel it. My pulse was pounding in my ears, my limbs stiff with fear. I spun around, as if expecting to see someone standing there in the room with me. But there was nothing. Nothing but the empty walls, the darkness of the apartment around me. I turned back to the TV. The figure was still there, just behind me in the reflection. It hadn't moved. It was waiting. My mind raced, trying to piece together what was happening. I couldn't process it. My thoughts felt jumbled, like my brain wasn't capable of understanding what I was seeing. There was no explanation, there was no logic. And then, in that moment, it hit me. It wasn't just the TV. That thing. It wasn't just on the screen, it was with me. In this room. The thought made my blood run cold. It wasn't confined to the screen, it wasn't trapped behind glass or static. It was here, with me, in the shadows of my own apartment. I reached for the remote again, my hand shaking, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I had to turn it off. I had to make it stop. But when I pressed the button, nothing happened. The screen didn't blink out. It stayed there, my face, motionless, and the thing behind me creeping closer. I tried to look away. I tried to convince myself it wasn't real, that I was just imagining it. But the air around me felt thicker, like it was pressing in, suffocating me. The figure behind me on the screen loomed larger. The space around it seemed to grow darker, deeper. And then, just as I thought I might snap, the screen flickered. The figure vanished. The static returned, swirling again, but the thing was gone. I blinked, unsure whether I had imagined it all, but the tightness in my chest, the sweat clinging to my skin, told me it hadn't been a dream. It hadn't been my imagination. I stood there, frozen in the middle of my living room, staring at the TV. My mind couldn't make sense of it, but one thing was certain. Whatever that thing was, it hadn't left. It was still out there, watching, waiting. And I knew, somehow, deep down, that it wasn't over. It had just begun. I thought I was going crazy. I tried to convince myself that it was just stress, that I was overthinking it, but deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. That thing on the TV, the shadow that had loomed behind me, wasn't just some glitch or a trick of my tired mind. It was real, and it was watching me. It knew me. I tried to shake it off, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't ignore the feeling that it was still there, lurking in the background, waiting for me to acknowledge it. Then came the notification on my phone. At first, I didn't think much of it. Another random message, another spam email, maybe even a notification I didn't care about. I unlocked the screen, distracted, already thinking about something else when my eyes landed on the new photo. It was a picture of me. My heart skipped a beat. I stared at the image, my stomach dropping. It was a shot of me in my kitchen, standing at the counter, my back to whoever had taken the picture. But that's the thing. I didn't remember anyone being here. No one had been in the apartment. No one had come in. The door was locked, the windows were shut. There was no explanation, no logic to it. I was alone. And yet, there it was, clear as day, me, caught in the kitchen, just standing there. I swiped to the next photo, shaking. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop myself. It was like I had to see. Another shot. This time, I was sitting at my desk, the faint glow of my desk lamp casting long, strange shadows across my face. But the image, this wasn't a selfie. This wasn't something I'd taken. I hadn't posed for it. I hadn't even noticed anyone there. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I flicked through more pictures, each one a new horror. Me, standing in front of the window, staring out at the streetlights. The night outside swallowing up the light. Me, lounging on the couch, oblivious to the camera in the corner of the room. Every photo was taken from angles I shouldn't have been able to see. Every photo felt like an intrusion, a violation of my privacy. But it wasn't just that. No, it was what came next that froze me to the core. The next photo was the one that made me drop the phone. It was a picture of me standing in the bathroom, looking into the mirror. I hadn't taken it. I hadn't noticed the camera. I didn't even remember anyone being around. But that wasn't the worst part. In the reflection, I wasn't alone. The figure, that thing, was standing right behind me. I staggered backward, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. The picture blurred in front of me, my vision swimming. I turned around, but the bathroom was empty. There was no one behind me. There was nothing. I looked back at the screen. There it was again, that thing, standing right there behind me. Faceless, featureless, just an empty, dark silhouette. My skin crawled. It wasn't just in the TV anymore. It wasn't just in the reflection on the screen. It was here. And it was getting closer. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. My pulse hammered in my ears as I flipped through the pictures again, each one more unsettling than the last. There I was, in my hallway, my body caught in the light from the kitchen. But in the shadows, I saw it. The figure was there too. Just outside the frame, but unmistakably present, lurking, waiting for me to look. I felt the walls closing in around me. I dropped the phone and ran to the bathroom, my mind a mess, my breath shallow. I had to see, had to check again. I turned on the light and stared at the mirror. Nothing. For a second, nothing. And then it happened. Just like the photos. Just like the images on the TV, it appeared. The figure. Behind me. Closer now, almost in the mirror's reflection, its darkness consuming the space around me. It was there, right behind me, and I could feel it, like it was right there, in the room with me, standing just out of sight. I couldn't move, I couldn't scream, I couldn't even blink. The reflection didn't change, but the fear in me did. My stomach twisted, and I felt the weight of it settle in my chest. The figure was no longer in the screen, no longer a flicker or an image. It was with me, and I realized with a sickening certainty that I couldn't escape it. No matter where I went, no matter what I did, it was following me, watching me, waiting, and it was getting closer, always closer. I could feel it again, the weight of it, that chilling presence lurking just behind me. It wasn't something I could touch or see or even fully comprehend, but I felt it. It was there, in the air, like a heavy fog that refused to lift. No matter how many times I looked over my shoulder, no matter how many corners I turned, I couldn't escape it. I wasn't alone anymore. I tried to convince myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me. That the stress, the fear, the images I'd seen on the TV, the photos on my phone, they were all just my imagination. I kept telling myself that even though deep down, I knew it was far from the truth. This thing, whatever it was, had followed me. It was getting closer. I couldn't avoid it any longer. It had settled into my life like a dark shadow, seeping into every moment. And I knew that it wouldn't stop until it had taken everything. I found myself standing in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at my reflection, trying to reassure myself that everything was fine. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The silence around me felt suffocating, as if the air itself had become thicker. I could hear the faintest ringing in my ears as I stood there, gripping the edge of the sink with both hands, my knuckles white. The room felt too still. The reflection in the mirror didn't seem right, but I couldn't put my finger on why. I leaned in closer, my breath fogging up the glass. Everything was just as it should be, or so I thought. And then, just like that, it happened. The air rippled in front of me, just the faintest distortion, like a slight wave in the water, a brief flicker. I blinked, unsure if I'd imagined it. But when I looked back at my reflection, I saw it. Someone was behind me. My heart dropped. At first, I didn't know what I was looking at. It was just a shadow, an indistinct shape, lingering at the edge of my reflection. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a trick of the mind, but the more I stared, the more wrong it felt. The shadow began to sharpen, take form. The shape became clearer, and then it was there. Standing behind me, just inches away in the mirror, was the thing. It had no face, no body, no features. Just a swirling, inky blackness that seemed to suck the light out of the room. I could feel its presence without even seeing it fully. It wasn't just behind me, it was with me. I couldn't move. My legs felt like lead, my body frozen in place as I stared at the reflection, unable to tear my eyes away. The thing wasn't moving. It was just there, standing in the shadows, watching, waiting. But I could feel it. It was getting closer. I spun around, my heart racing, desperate to break the spell. I had to escape. I had to leave this place. But when I turned, the room was empty. No one was there. The bathroom was just as it always had been, silent, still. I took a shuddering breath, trying to steady myself. I looked back at the mirror. It was still there, behind me, closer now. I staggered backward, tripping over my feet, panic surging through my veins. My head spun, the room spinning with it. The mirror was no longer just a reflection. It had become a doorway, a window into something that shouldn't exist. Something that was right there, in the room with me, though I couldn't see it. I stepped back again, my chest tight, my breathing shallow. I couldn't take my eyes off the mirror. I could feel it behind me. I could feel it. I didn't dare look over my shoulder. I was too afraid. I knew that when I did, it would be standing right there, just inches away. The reflection in the mirror seemed to shift, the figure coming into sharper focus. And in that moment I realized something horrifying. The thing wasn't just standing behind me, it was becoming me. The face I saw in the reflection, it wasn't mine. My own face, my own features had been replaced by that thing. The faceless blackness consumed the mirror, replacing everything I had ever known. My body shook as I tried to look away, but I couldn't. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the mirror. The thing, it was me, but it wasn't. The reflection stretched, the dark form behind me growing until it filled the entire glass. And in the quiet, in the stillness of the room, I heard a whisper. "You're mine now." My stomach churned, and every instinct in me screamed to run, to leave, to escape this nightmare. But I couldn't move. My legs wouldn't carry me. My body was paralyzed by terror. I took a breath, my chest tight, as I turned slowly, desperately, to face the empty bathroom. But it wasn't empty. It was standing right behind me. I could feel it, its cold breath against my neck, its darkness spilling over me, creeping through my skin. I couldn't breathe. And then I heard it again, clearer this time. "You're mine now." I screamed, but no sound came out. Because I had already disappeared. I couldn't take it anymore. The tension in my chest, the feeling of being watched, it was unbearable. I had to end this. I had to make it stop. The TV, that TV, was the source of it all. The thing had shown itself there first, creeping into my life through the static, making its way into every corner of my world. I thought destroying it would put an end to it. I thought that if I broke the TV, it would go away. I was wrong. I stormed into the living room, my mind racing, my hands trembling. Every inch of my body was wound tight, ready to explode. The air in the room felt thick, like it was pressing against me, making it harder to breathe. I looked at the TV, dark, silent, mocking me with its emptiness. The thing, whatever it was wasn't gone. It was still there, lurking in the silence. I couldn't let it win. I couldn't let it have me. Without thinking, I grabbed the remote, pressing the power button with more force than necessary. Nothing. The screen didn't flicker, didn't change. Just that same empty blackness. My heart raced. Panic surged through me. I threw the remote aside, angry, desperate, wanting to feel something, anything, but the cold weight of dread. I grabbed a vase from the coffee table, its glass cool and heavy in my hands. It felt solid, real. For a moment, it gave me a sense of control, like I could finally fight back. With a scream of frustration, I lifted the vase and hurled it at the TV with everything I had. The sound of glass shattering was deafening. It was the kind of noise that felt like it was tearing through my soul, the sharp crack of it sending a thrill through my spine. The TV exploded in a shower of glass, and for a brief second I thought I had done it. I thought I had won. The room fell into silence again, the air thick with tension. But then, the static started. It was faint at first, a low crackle that echoed in my chest. The TV buzzed to life again, the screen flickering like it was waking from a deep sleep. I felt my heart seize in my chest as the static grew louder. The screen, the same damn screen, came back to life. I hadn't done anything. The TV was whole again. The glass shards I'd thrown at it had disappeared, as if they'd never existed. There, on the screen, was my face. But it wasn't just any face. It was me, asleep in my bed. I hadn't been near the TV. I hadn't set up any cameras. I hadn't done anything to make this happen. My heart pounded in my throat as I stood frozen, watching myself, sleeping. There was no logical explanation for this. There was no way to explain how it could have captured me like this. But then, behind me, in the reflection on the screen, it appeared. The thing. The faceless figure. It was there, watching, waiting. I stepped back, my legs trembling beneath me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. The figure on the screen seemed to grow, to stretch out of the blackness, its shadow reaching across the room. My heart slammed in my chest as the shape grew clearer, more defined. It wasn't just a shadow anymore. It was alive. I couldn't think. I couldn't process what was happening. I reached for the broken pieces of the vase on the floor, my hands shaking, and threw them at the screen again. The glass hit the TV, but the image didn't change. It stayed the same. My own face, frozen, eyes closed in sleep, and the thing behind me, always behind me, growing closer. It was in my head now. It had gotten inside my mind. It had taken me, taken my world, and twisted it. I screamed. I yelled at it, at the TV, at the thing that was destroying everything. But my voice felt small, swallowed by the noise of the static. I grabbed a chair and threw it, desperate, frantic, but the thing didn't care. The TV didn't care. And then, as if it had always been waiting for me to realize, the thing, the shadow, morphed. It changed. The image on the screen was no longer just my face. It wasn't me anymore. It was the thing. The faceless form had replaced me, taken my place. The blackness spread out, consumed the screen, and I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. It was becoming me. It was taking everything from me. My legs buckled. I couldn't stand anymore. I stumbled backward, my hands clutching the wall to keep myself upright. My breath came in shallow gasps, and the room felt like it was spinning. I couldn't escape. There was no way out. The thing was everywhere. It was in the TV, in the mirrors, in the air. It was here with me, in this room, and it was closer than ever. The screen flickered again, and the figure, it was standing behind me. It was standing right behind me. I couldn't run, I couldn't scream, I couldn't do anything but watch as the thing slowly, steadily, replaced me, became me. The screen went black, and just like that, I was gone. The apartment felt like a tomb, suffocating and silent, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me, suffocating every breath. I was no longer just scared, I was desperate. The thing that had started on the TV, that had crept into my life, into my head, it was with me now. I could feel it. Always just behind me, always waiting. I tried to leave. I'd tried so many times. Packed my bags, rushed for the door, but every time I got close, every time I reached for the handle, the hallway outside would stretch further and further away. It was like the building itself was alive, keeping me trapped. The thing wouldn't let me go. I had nowhere to run. Tonight, though, I knew it was different. It felt different. I couldn't explain why, but something in my gut twisted, telling me that tonight would be the end of it. That the thing had grown tired of playing games, tired of waiting. Tonight, it was coming for me. I stood in the living room, staring at the TV. The screen was black, void of any light, and I could almost hear it, feel it, waiting. I didn't even know if the thing was still on the screen, but I knew it was there. I could feel it, creeping through the air like a thick fog. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, that I was just exhausted, that everything would be fine if I just left the room. But I couldn't move. I couldn't leave. Not this time. I took a step closer to the TV, my legs trembling beneath me. My heartbeat thundered in my chest, each pulse echoing in my ears. My breath came in shallow gasps. The static filled the room, that low hum that had become the soundtrack of my fear. And then, the screen flickered. There it was again. My face staring back at me. Not just a reflection, not just an image of me sitting there. No, it was me, sleeping in my bed. I hadn't been near the TV in hours. I hadn't even thought about it. But there it was, unmistakably real. My body, motionless, eyes closed. And I knew that the thing had captured this moment, had been watching me while I slept. But it didn't stop there. Behind me, in the reflection, the thing appeared. I couldn't make it out at first, just a dark, shifting shape that seemed to move at the edges of my vision. I looked back, but the room was empty. I looked at the TV again. It was still there. The shape was clearer now, the shadow of a figure. Faceless, featureless, standing just behind me, watching. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't respond. I was frozen, unable to tear my eyes from the screen. My heart was hammering in my chest, every breath more shallow than the last. The thing was behind me. It was with me, and no matter how many times I looked away, it would be there, waiting, watching. I stumbled back, panic surging through me, but it didn't matter. I could feel its presence. I could feel it in the air, crawling over my skin, like ice spreading through my veins. I turned away from the screen and grabbed the remote, desperate to shut it off. But nothing happened. I threw the remote aside. The TV remained on, flickering with static. I grabbed a vase from the coffee table. Anything to smash the damn thing, to make it stop. I didn't care if I broke it. I didn't care about anything except getting it to stop. With all the strength I could muster, I hurled the vase at the TV. It collided with the screen, shattering the glass with a deafening crash. The static stopped, and for a moment I thought it was over, that maybe, finally, I had destroyed it. But I was wrong. The TV came back to life. It didn't just flicker, it was whole again, the shattered glass replaced, the static gone. And there it was, my face, once again, staring back at me. But it wasn't just me, it was the thing. It had replaced me. The thing had taken my place. I stumbled backward, gasping for air. It wasn't over, it wasn't finished. The thing was here, It was inside the TV, inside my head. It had been waiting for me to finally accept it. It was never going to stop. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. And then, from behind me, I heard it. A whisper. Barely a sound, like a breath of wind against my ear. "You're mine now." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My legs gave way beneath me and I collapsed to the floor, my body trembling with fear. The darkness in the room thickened, and the presence of the thing, that thing, grew stronger. It was behind me now. It had taken me. The air around me seemed to suffocate every breath. I couldn't feel my body anymore. I couldn't hear anything except that whispering voice. "You're mine now." And then, as the room seemed to close in around me, I felt the cold hands of the thing reaching for me. I knew then, with absolute certainty, that there was no escape. The TV went dark. The silence that followed was deafening, and I was gone. I don't know how long I've been here, in the dark. All I know is that I'm no longer in control. The thing, it, is still here, in this place with me, in the shadows, always watching, always waiting. And it's never letting me go. Thank you for venturing into the shadows with me here at Frightful Whispers. Remember, the darkness holds secrets, but also whispers truths to those who dare to listen. If tonight's tale sent shivers down your spine, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It helps keep the fire of fright alive. Rest easy, but keep one eye open, for the night is never truly still. Until we meet again, stay vigilant, stay curious, and let the whispers guide you.